Now then, it would appear James O'Brien is having a rant again about Trump, so let's get into it, see what's what.
Mr. President, what are you doing up there?
It's an extraordinary moment of liberation when you stop thinking that there's a master plan, or you stop thinking that Donald Trump is moments away from restoring normality, restoring a semblance of decency, when you stop thinking that the bad behaviour is an aberration and the status quo.
He's so angry about what? I mean, I know why he's angry. But that was like a silly clip to show that it was on the roof. So like, and then to go into this unhinged rant
Will be restored. It is a strange moment, and in many ways, despite having gone quite early on it compared to other people in my profession, we still went quite late. You know, still thinking during the state visit, for example, well, maybe this will nudge him into a place where he stops being so mad. Where he's
what? Why would a state visit to the UK like make him feel less mad? Like, Keir Starmer has like no bargaining power at all with Trump, none at all. Like, no way Keir or even Charles himself would be able to make Trump be willing to listen to him.
He stops being so petulant, he stops being so unhinged, he stops being so erratic, he stops being so unpredictable. Maybe cozying up to him at the state visit, I think this was Keir Starmer's calculation, will be enough to sort of shock him into decency. There were plenty of people still in the media, still
No. I mean, it's just going on a bit of a diatribe here, but
using phrases like Trump derangement syndrome to describe those of us describing Trump's derangement. And there's something there for the PhD thesis writers of the future to look at. What on earth would possess someone commenting on current affairs to attack the people describing a mad president instead?
Well, it's because you tell lies and you misrepresent Trump. And I'm not like in favour of everything Trump does and says, but what happened is the populace woke up to the fact that the media are always trying to spin a certain narrative about certain politicians or events. And politicians use spin as well. But there was always this thing, I would say, prior to like 2016, where people trusted media. People thought that, you know, like the BBC and the Guardian and everybody else were just telling them the truth, unaware that they were being led astray. So that's what happened. And that's why people like you now get lambasted. And people will, like when Trump tells CNN to sit down and that the fake news, I love that. So I really dislike journalists.
Of attacking the mad president.
And I dislike politicians too, but politicians are like a necessary part of society. We need to have somebody governing, but do we really need journalists like misrepresenting news? I don't think so.
President.
We're doing very well on the war front, to put it mildly, I would say. Somebody said, on a scale of 10, where would you rate it? I said about a 15.
We went early on calling him deranged.
Well, that's even more cringe then. You've had Trump derangement syndrome for a very long time, and you've never backed out of it then. Because some people had it to begin with, and then they eventually like learned that they were being illogical with a lot of their things they were saying, and they backed away from being so obsessed with Trump. But if you are still neck deep in the Trump derangement syndrome, then that's even more cringe. That's worse.
On calling him mad. That's not a diagnosis. And even if it were, it's not one that I'm qualified to give. Over the course of the last few days,
I don't think you're qualified to give any diagnosis about anything, James. I think you're just a deluded idiot. I don't think I've ever heard anything you say and thought, yeah, that's a succinct, rational point.
Three men who are prominent contributors to public discourse in this country. Three men have all arrived at the same conclusion. And it is interesting because they are very, very different men. And they speak from very, very different positions. You have...
these radios don't have to make some money off of waffling. Like, how much airtime is he filling up here not saying things?
You have a crazy Brexiter, the wrongest man in the world, Daniel Hannan. You have one of the finest journalists this country has produced in the last 50 years, Alan Rusbridger, former editor of The Guardian and Prospect magazine.
Oh man, he is cringe. And cringe. This is a cringe fest, this, James.
And you have one of my favourite columnists, despite the fact that he sometimes writes things that I balk at, Matthew Parris in the Times, a former Conservative MP from a wing of the Conservative Party that really, in its current guise, no longer exists. So three very...
Yeah, I mean, I kind of think the Labour and Conservative parties won't exist. I mean, they will. There'll still be some parties called that. They'll be the same parties we have now, but they'll be so minuscule and irrelevant that nobody will care anymore. They're both fallen by the wayside. They are part of the old system.
Very different perspectives. These are the three headlines that have appeared in the last few days. Rusbridger first. I was already worried about Trump's mental decline. It just got...
So now we're pretending Trump is Biden. They ignored it. They completely ignored it with Biden. But now that Trump is doing things they don't like, they have to try and mention that he's got mental decline. Doesn't look like he's got mental decline to me. I mean, do I agree with all his decisions? No, but I don't think that indicates that he's suffering from mental decline.
Matthew Parris in the Times. Trump is too deranged to continue in office. And then Daniel Hannan in the Washington Examiner. Donald Trump is losing his mind. So a consensus from three very, very different corners of commentary that Donald Trump is losing his mind.
I don't think so, to be honest. He's making some bad decisions. He's handled the Iran thing poorly, I would say. But I don't think I've witnessed that at all. I think this is just angry journalists that all, not happy with Trump's actions at the minute. That's all this is.
Or has lost his mind. That Donald Trump is mad. Not that Donald Trump...
I mean, this is the pot calling the kettle black here, James. You are like an unhinged psycho, to be honest.
Trump is erratic or unpredictable or difficult to work with, but he is actively mad. As in, there is no way of imposing comprehension upon his conduct. It makes no sense. It is mad. Donald Trump has gone mad.
Man, you've just wasted 20 seconds saying the same thing over and over again. This one of the reasons I hate journalists. Absolutely hate.
Surprise. Who knows better about surprise than Japan? Okay, why didn't you tell me about Pearl Harbor? Okay?
Three of the most powerful men in the United States of America. One of them encountered a dead raccoon, got out of the car, cut its penis off and took it home. One of them likes to give sermons and claim that the US military acts according to God's will, which...
I mean, what is that your best roast? I mean, as a Christian, I'm not going to say if God is using the military for God's will or not at this moment in time. I mean, I would say, historically speaking, being British, I think the British Empire was God's will. We got rid of slavery around the world during the time that we had the reigns of world power. So I'm not going to completely dismiss that. That's nonsense. But what, he gives sermons in the leader of the what's the cabinet called now? The Department of War is saying that he's part of God's will and he's a Christian. I mean, that's not really a burn at all, that, James.
Which, of course, makes him a religious extremist of exactly the type that we are encouraged to detest in Iran. And one of them is, according to...
But they're Islamic, and Islam is the wrong religion. And we can co-conceive all we like, right? But that is the truth. Islam is a funnel to hell. It is not genuinely making contact with Allah or God, Yeah, I'm not going to rant about Islam, but yeah, there's a big difference between an Islamic government and a Christian government, and it's a hill I'm willing to die on.
Reports, I think in the Washington Post, off his nut. And they've all been put in position by Donald Trump before he was widely regarded to be mad. Then you turn your attention to Trump. And, I mean, what would you even pick as evidence of escalation? Because we have sat here now for a long time pointing...
Seeming to me that, he didn't really have a lot to talk about. Trump went on the roof, so he just turned this into a big diatribe, political exposition of his own position. That's all this is.
How hard it is to keep up. But something changed last week in that a new dimension emerged where it wasn't being overcome and subsumed by the next big announcement. For me, the Jesus picture,
Yeah, that one not good. That was a misstep. That one, Trump. I think he's trying to move in the right direction. I think he's trying to enact more, be more Christ-like. But yeah, I mean, we don't really, shouldn't really depict ourselves as Jesus himself.
That was a moment of almost unbelievable madness. I'm going to post a picture of myself portrayed as Jesus. The message that he posted about Iran using foul language and praising Allah, that seemed to me to be marks of a level of madness not previous.
Why? What? Tuesday will be power plant day and bridge day, all wrapped up in one in Iran. There will be nothing like it. Open the effing straits, you crazy bastards. Or you'll be living in hell. Just watch praise be to Allah. They praise Allah all the time. Like, and if he, if I don't know Trump's position on it, like I'm saying that Allah is not God. Essentially, that when Muslims pray to Allah, God doesn't hear their prayers, or like God is not going to enact them because they are not acting within the path that He set, which is Christianity. So yeah, him say Trump might very well still believe it's the same God and that they potentially are. Praising Allah. I doubt it though. I think he's trying to insult them. But I mean, James here is being a bit fragile.
Obviously reached by Donald Trump. And then he turned upon his former cheerleaders, Tucker Carlson, Megyn Kelly, Candace Owens and Alex Jones, calling them in capital letters nut jobs and losers with low IQ.
That was a misstep, that one. Attacking his own most vocal supporters. Been a bit of a misstep for Trump. Like I say, he's made some mistakes. He's handled some of this Iran stuff a bit poorly, but is he going insane? I don't think so.
These are the reasons why Daniel Hannan, Matthew Parris and Alan Rusbridger have all gone there. And it's a place they've gone to that even 6 months ago, I always felt a little bit uncomfortable about it. Not because of the mental health element, not because of being insensitive about mental.
My days, man. This is a 30-minute clip, and he's covered like maybe made 4 points which have been invalid. Like, it's like, can we get further in? Is it like let's go a bit further in and see if he's going to try and make some like succinct points at some
What is
point.
a corner store? I've never heard that term. I know what a corner store is, but I've never heard it described. A corner store. Who the hell wrote that?
The insanity of the most powerful political leader in the world posting an AI image of himself dressed up as the Son of God, healing the sick, is impossible to convey. We probably did.
I mean, I will say one thing. What do you care if you're not Christian, for one? And like, this is the thing with atheists. They like to try and use the Christian faith against Christians without actually knowing what the hell they're talking about. And I've noticed that since I came to Christ myself. I used to be an atheist, and I used to do this cringe stuff too, which is why now when I see it, I'm like, I cringe so much. I'm like, oh. And Christ, the reason Christ healed people, it wasn't merely to show that he was the Son of God, but it was showing us that we have the abilities to do this as well. I mean, I don't think I'm a healer. I do have certain abilities that God bestowed me for something that is on my path, but I'm not a healer. But there are healers out there. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's not outside the realms of possibility that Trump could potentially be a healer. I doubt he is. And obviously depicting himself as Jesus doing it is, it's a bit sketchy. It's a bit sketchy, that one. But overall, I find it funny that a rampant atheist is going to try and find fault with it when he doesn't know what he's talking about.
Didn't feel it land as heavily as it would do, as it should do, because it comes on the back of so many other transgressions and so many other aberrations.
What was the diagnosis?
It was, I think it was a terminal diagnosis.
He would be dead by June.
Okay, that wasn't public, but yeah, okay, that's...
Rusbridger goes on, in most places, the HR
I
department
mean, most of the time like that, I'd find Trump funny. I don't know. Who cares? Like, that not like the biggest slip-up in the world.
would be looking at a twin-track policy of support and protection. A leader who behaved so aberrantly that it became routine for observers to suggest that they had lost their marbles. I mean, it's there.
$8 million for making mice transgender.
What's happened?
But I mean, I'm not 100% sure why that study was being conducted. Maybe there was a legitimate reason and Trump has strawmanned it, right? But at the same time, him pointing out that the cockamamie experiments taking place that were being funded, and why they shouldn't occur, and then you clipping it as though he's like doing the Alex Jones making the freaking frogs gay sort of thing is very, very disingenuous, James. You are a nasty person. I'm going to leave the video here. If you want to check out this video, the link is in the description. I'm not going to continue it because I think James is a retard, so I'll leave it there.